Hey guys, today's episode is with Adam Cohen-Aslatai of anti-superficial dating app S'more. It's a pretty cool concept where the more you interact, the more the person's image or profile pic appears, starting from a blurry photo. He's raised money from Zynga founder Mark Pincus, from Gaingels, and from a roster of really high-profile and impressive angel investors. If you like this content, please hit that subscribe button, leave us a nice comment, and I will send you a list of 21 pitch decks of unicorn startups before they became unicorns. So you can study and see how they were pitching themselves before they became household names. These are companies like Airbnb, LinkedIn, WeWork, Coinbase, and others. So hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, and then email us info@foundersuite.com, and I will send you that list. Until then, enjoy the chat with Adam.
Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com. Today I have Adam Cohen-Aslatai, hopefully I got the name right, of S'more, coming to us from Midtown Manhattan. How's your day going?
Great. Everything's amazing here. How are you?
I'm good. It's a kind of cloudy, overcast day in Marin County, California, but can't complain. What's the scene in Midtown Manhattan like right now?
Frigid here. We've had 3 snowstorms in a week. You can't get a coat big enough and boots tall enough to protect you from the elements, but everything else is great.
I was out in New York pitching investors. This is a couple years ago in February. And I remember I would have to pop in. It was so cold. I would have to walk 2 blocks and then pop into a store for a few minutes just to warm up. Yeah, I was not ready for it. I was like completely.
I literally did that on the way home yesterday. I popped into a pharmacy and I only lived 12 minutes away. But after 6 minutes of walking, I needed to go into a pharmacy because it was freezing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you get the winds tunneling down the streets. Very cool. Well, what is S'more? Tell us about what you guys do.
Yeah, so S'more is the world's first anti-superficial relationship app. So on S'more, we believe in getting to know a person before judging them based on a headshot. So the more you interact with the person, the more their photos unblur and other visual content about them unlocks. So that's one part of it. And the other issue is the other benefit of S'more is we're really trying to improve a lot of the frustration that people have found with dating apps, the swipe fatigue, dating fake people and catfishers and people behaving badly and poorly. So we have all these new components and features in S'more to elevate dating for everyone, but also with the core value of you shouldn't be judged or judge someone else without knowing who that person is.
Interesting. So let me take it through almost in a real granular level. I'm matched up with one or more people that I don't get to see. I maybe see a silhouette of their image, and then as we kind of interact in the app, so texting and doing things like that, the image gradually appears. Is that kind of
The
accurate?
image will unblur, the other visual content about them will unlock, like a photo gallery of them, videos of them, social media connections of them. And when you interact with a person, it's not just the text, but people's profiles on S'more feel much more like MySpace pages than a dating app. And why is that different? It's because on MySpace, profiles were unstructured so that your space and MySpace look and feel differently. And that's what actually leads to discovery when 2 things are visually different. So the trick is, if you don't have a photo, which would be the visual difference, get 2 profiles to look very different to get people to want to engage. And that's sort of the trick or the hook of S'more. We have these multimedia platforms that are very visually distinct.
Interesting. Am I unlocking or unblurring? I don't know what the action verb is there, but am I unblurring with multiple people at a time, or is it kind of a one-to-one sort of thing?
Yeah, so we give you 15 profiles in a day that we think you'd be a good fit for based on your behavior on the app and also how you decided to convey your personality. And then with each of those profiles, if you wanted to chat with all of them, you can. We have a little unblurring meter in each chat. so you can see exactly where you are in the process of unblurring that person. And hopefully we lead you down this discovery path and really connect with the person on a deeper level.
Fascinating. I'm almost embarrassed to admit this. I did watch with my 10-year-old daughter, it was her choice, season 1, you probably know where I'm going with this, season 1 of Love is Blind TV show, where these people, agree to get married before even seeing each other. Just an absurd premise, but like, it was pretty entertaining TV. I mean, so really where I'm going with this, where did this idea come from? I mean, it's pretty clever novel.
Yeah, so my background is I've been in the dating or social discovery space for about 10 years, and I've worked for some of the largest companies like the Meet Group. I've consulted for big companies like Spark Network, who they own Zeus and JDate and Christian Mingle. And then I also most recently was the managing director at Chappy, which is an app that's owned by Bumble. So I've been in the space for quite a long time. I left Chappy in 2019 when the company was sold to Blackstone. By the way, this recording is happening pre-Bumble's IPO, but that's a whole other conversation. And so, I left the industry, not really looking to get back into it. And, I ended up in Mexico, and my story, my real founding story, the real reason it started is I met a woman on the beach. She was an African-American woman, and she told me that I ruined her life. And what she said was, as a woman of color, she felt as though she had to put a version of herself on these apps that she knew was inauthentic. So she said, look, I know exactly how to airbrush my photos. I know what to write in a first message. I know what to write in my bio to make sure that a man responds like this. It's a game. Men are simple, but men do the same thing, right? Men play this game. Ultimately, if you're leading with the sexiest 5% of who you are, how can you expect the end result to be a relationship? And so we have these artificial expectations based on apps that are really not meant to connect someone on a deeper level. They're meant for that instant gratification, instant judgment. And so I felt like I had spent the last decade ruining people's lives. And so I went up to my hotel room, felt pretty bad about what had happened in that conversation. And I really just spec'd out an entire app that was meant to drive conversation over the judgment of a photo. And that became S'more. And what's cool about the concept of S'more is not just a cute word. I love the name, and some people do as well. But S'more stands for something more. And something more is the #1 term that people use when they give feedback on dating apps. People are already asking for deeper ways to connect. We're just delivering on that promise with S'more.
Very interesting. I've never been on any dating app ever. I predated, although Match was around when I was still dating. And there was another one at the time that was really you had to fill out a lot of surveys. And which one was it?
OkCupid, maybe?
OkCupid, yeah. It was much more like getting deep into the relationship versus like a, superficial match. And there were the two ones but I never tried either one. Pretty fascinating. And so you guys launched in when? How long have you been actually live?
Yeah, so the company was born in 2019, and we launched in beta in January of 2020. We exited beta 3 months later, so March of 2020. And it's been a little bit less than a year outside of beta. We have almost 175,000 users of the app in a few short months. And we are only live in a couple cities in the US. We're growing really rapidly. Part of it is the app is just super freaking cool and very different. It doesn't feel like a dating app. It feels like it's just a fun experience that you're having. Part of it is the brand that we built, the focus on brand marketing as opposed to product. And then thirdly, I would say is helpful because I've been in the industry, so we often get called by the press to answer questions or to help them understand the industry. And of course, Love is Blind, as you mentioned earlier, the press refers to us as the Love is Blind app, and it's true. We are a very similar concept to the show, and it really gets people thinking, well, what would my relationship life be if I wasn't judging someone? So they all want that experience, and so people are downloading the app for that reason as well.
It's interesting. Talk about building the brand. So I think I saw a celebrity dating show. Maybe what are you doing? What are some of your clever growth hacks and brand building hacks? Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, we're in a very crowded space. Even though we don't consider ourselves to be a dating app per se, we're much more about a community of people who are looking for different types of relationships. Could be romance, could be friendship, could be common interests. And the reason we frame it that way is because we know that there's 50% of American singles who will never use a dating app. They hate it. They don't like the connotation, but they're willing to meet someone new. So we want to give them an environment that feels friendlier than a traditional dating app. And so that's why we have a lot of these more community features for organic discovery in S'more. We also knew that we couldn't compete with some of these billion-dollar dating apps. But again, we could be smarter, we could be more flexible, and we can be more creative than many of them can in many, many ways. And so one of the things that we decided to do early on when we launched was, okay, well, if you're a consumer brand, right, how do you make sure you're top of mind all the time?
Yeah.
As a little dinky startup, it's really freaking hard to do that, right? Nobody wants to talk about S'more, and everybody wants to talk about Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble. And so we needed to create our own narrative for the world in a global pandemic, with Trump being president, with the uprising and sort of the cultural conversation around Black Lives Matter. A lot was going on. And so people were very nervous and people were very stressed. And we decided, hey, we're going to provide a social good and we're going to create a dating show on Instagram where we provide useful tips to people who are single and in quarantine. And let's give them ideas of ways that they can still date and hear from celebrities that they care about and also entertain them and delight them. So we created the celebrity dating show on Instagram. We are going to be shooting our 70th episode this week. Wow. And so every week for the last 6 months, we've been shooting the show, and it's just been so much fun and gotten a lot of attention for the brand as well. And also helps to create really solid celebrity relationships between S'more and some of these amazing celebrities who really believe in what we're doing, right? Improving dating for everyone, not being catfished, getting to know someone on a deeper level. These are all values, human values that most of us have.
Interesting. All right, 3-part question here. Ready for it. Who are some of the notable celebrities that have been on, and how do you recruit them? And then any favorite tips, dating tips that have come out from that? There's a lot to that question. Choose what
so much. Yeah. So you look, I think if you ask people, what are my top 1 or 2 qualities? I'm a hustler and I always get shit done. Excuse my language. But, I knew that I needed to have celebrities on this show in order to, create captivating content, at least to start. Some of the big celebrities that we've had on the show include Olivia Culpo, who's a very famous actress, Martha Hunt, Shanina Sheikh. We've had the cast of Dallas Housewives, many people from Bravo, WWE. We've had investors and big business people like Tom Bilyeu and Lisa Bilyeu, who founded Quest Nutrition, and just all kinds of really interesting people. And their followings are anything from 100,000 followers to several million followers. In terms of a reach. So it's been great. And we kind of just reach out to them. They appear on the show and we create amazing content that they can share as well.
Yeah, that's great. Any just fun tips that have come out? I'm sure it's a lot, but anything, yeah.
Yeah, I think, we always ask the celebrities, what is your dating or relationship tip of the day? And I think oftentimes it's be honest, be yourself. And it really dovetails nicely with what we stand for as a brand, because on so many of these apps, you're pressured or forced to put a version of yourself out there, which is, again, the sexiest 5%, which is cool. We all have that sexy side, but that's part of who we are, not all of who we are. And in order for you to find true love, and this is going to sound cliche, someone has to fall in love with all the really unsexy parts of you. So better to show them a full picture up front and not waste your time. If everyone's doing that, then everybody wins. And I think a lot of these celebrities who have been dating have been down that road. It's even more pressure for them because they're in the public eye all the time, but they're human beings. They still want love. They still want to be in a relationship. So it's being truthful, being honest. And if things aren't working out, communicate that and move on. I think that's totally fair. I think that's the best piece of advice that we've seen so far.
Sound advice. Cool. Let's talk about raising capital for this. So you guys launched a year ago. How much have you raised and when? And give us a lay of the land.
So we just completed our seed round January 30th, so just recently. So in total, we've raised $3.2 million within 2 rounds. The first round was in 2019. The second round was in what year are we? 2021. And we have a series of VCs as well as angel investors in the rounds. So including Benson Oak Ventures, Loud Capital's Kind.Fund, Gaingels. We have Boston Harbor Angels, SideCar Angels. We have a lot. And we have super angels, including Mark Pincus from Zynga, Joshua Black from Apollo Group, and many others.
So I saw the list, pretty impressive list. How did you go about, doing this? You've been around the industry for quite a while. Were you involved in fundraisings at Bumble or other previous startups? How did you kind of put together this pretty amazing list of investors?
Yeah. So, while I had a lot of experience operating these companies, I knew how to build them. I knew how to monetize them. That part I understood. And I think that that's obviously a critical element, but I had no clue how to fundraise for a company. And I think that, I kind of learned it on the fly a little bit, also taking advice from people who have done this before. But ultimately, we kind of carved our own path and figured out our own strategy for fundraising, which, to our advantage, we were able to raise over $1 million pre-product before we launched anything, right? And so all we had was a thing that we were building and my reputation, essentially.
Okay, let's get into the weeds on it, though. So let's start with that one, maybe that first chunk of money, pre-product. You've got a reputation, you've got this vision, pretty clever idea. How did you actually identify people that would be even remotely interested? Did you just look at people who had invested in previous dating apps or what?
Yeah, so no, I didn't look at that. What I really looked at is when you are raising money for something that's pre-product or a very new anything, investors are investing in you as the founder and you as the team. That's number one, because the product will inevitably change. You haven't figured out product market fit yet, right? And so in doing so, as a founder and as a founding team, you need to figure out what is unique about you and the team. Mm-hmm. That's the starting point. So for me, I'm Canadian, I'm Jewish, I'm gay, I went to Harvard, I went to McGill, I have a father who's Israeli. So I write down all these characteristics that make me unique, and I'm Canadian. And I write down all these characteristics that make me unique. There's probably more than that, but those are the big ones. And then you start reaching out to and researching VCs that invest in those niche groups, right? So there are VCs who invest in LGBTQ founders, people who invest in Canadian businesses or Israeli connected businesses, people who invest in Harvard founders or McGill founders. And you sort of go down this list, and that's how we started to reach out. And from there, it kind of snowballed. And we ended up really cold messaging a lot of people on LinkedIn, not using not using their longer form invite on LinkedIn, just connecting with them with a simple 3-sentence, hey, this is who I am, this is what we're doing. And we had so much traction kind of doing it the old fashioned way.
That's interesting. So let's go into that a little more detail. So literally you're finding someone, I think I saw like Gaingels, which is the gay angel group, feel like that. Yep. You're finding people, you're simply doing an invite to them on LinkedIn saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm working on, can we connect? And then how do you spin that up into a deeper discussion or pitch meeting or whatever is the next step?
Yeah, so then I have a pitch email that's ready to go out, because once you're connected with them, you have their email address in many cases. You send them an email that explains what you're doing, product, and you ask for meeting. Now, these are VCs, so their job is to invest in companies, right? So they're going to take hopefully they're going to take a meeting with you. And so we had a lot of traction from that perspective. We also, when we were able to get one investor, whether it was an angel or a VC, that person then also opened up their network to us. So using what we had and kind of further relying on those relationships to build even more interest in the company is something that we did. And of course, if you can use the media, that's great as well.
Go into that. How'd you use the media to get awareness or investor interest?
Yeah, I think, when we first started, we didn't have any press about us. So I think that having a background in the industry, I used previous media about myself and about things that I did in the past to help prove out the credentials that I have. And I think that was one of the things that led to people trusting and believing and investing as well.
And would you, you get something published, would you then kind of circulate that to all the investors that you were kind of chatting with, or was there any more methodology to it, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I left Chappie, I wrote what I think is a really interesting article, not just because I wrote it, I just think it's a really interesting article on why I thought, and I still think, that Grindr could be the most important media acquisition of 2019. And I explained why that company could either be worth very little, when I say very little, worth what it's worth today, or be worth 10 times that amount if you take that company and make it into a media brand rather than a salacious dating app. Because the gay community loves that. There's never been more gay people anywhere in the world than on that app, but it's selling sex, which is totally fine, but it should be selling more of a lifestyle rather than action. And so the article really went into detail on how they should do it, what they should be doing. And I helped to, use that plus some things that I did when I was at larger dating apps to say, hey, these are my thoughts on the industry. These are my perspectives on the industry. And then this is what we're trying to build with S'more, reconcile the difference. Please give me some money, basically.
Yeah, no, that's good. Kind of, that's your macro thesis that you're sort of pitching, right?
Yes.
Essentially. Interesting. Now, you have a pretty large list of investors. What did the top of the funnel look like? One of the questions I always ask, like, how many people on the cap table, and then how many did you ultimately maybe talk to begin with to get X number of investors? Do you have any rough numbers around that?
Yeah, I think in this round, we were about 20 investors in the company. I think that we are five or six entities, so businesses, and then the rest are super angel investors. So yeah, so the cap table is made up of them, and yeah.
How many do you think you talked to get those 20? Like, did you talk to 200 people to get to 20, or 80, or some other number? I don't know.
Yeah, I think we probably had, in terms of different people or entities, probably about 80, maybe 80, 90 entities, and we ended up with 20 of them. Again, some of those entities were like 7 conversations with different people, but I would say that probably, I think our hit rate was relatively strong. Again, it's not like I had these great relationships with investors. I didn't. And that's why I think doing your show is really inspiring to other people, because you don't need those relationships to raise money. You need an idea, a product that's cool, that's innovative, that has traction, that has potential. You need to have yourself as a founder with the right credentials, build the right team, and then you can also raise money. You don't need to have an inherent investor network to be successful at raising it. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, no, that's
easier to, but I don't think that's a necessity.
Did you do anything? You're talking to 80 folks, 20 end up investing. Did you do anything to kind of generate momentum or just heat on the deal, kind of getting people fired up and helping? Because that's a 25% hit rate, right? From doing my math rate, something like that. Conversion rate, right? Which is really good. Any like tactics you did to get that momentum or heat going?
So I think, speaking to syndicates, I think speaking to angel networks is really useful, right? Because an angel network may be one entity for me, but there's 100 people listening on the call. So those 100 people, the angel network may not invest themselves. They may need to hit a threshold of $100,000, but there may be $50,000 of interest. So they may come to you directly afterwards, or they may have friends who invest in that space. So going after these larger angel networks can be very helpful to bring in super angel investors in our experience. So I think that's been helpful. And also, once you have an investor, use that investor to get you other people as well. So use the name brand, if you have a name brand, to leverage that for further investment.
In terms of angel groups, so you've got the Gaingels, which is the gay angels group, and then what else? Boston Harbor Angels. Who are they? Are they like HBS focused or something else?
So we have, so Benson Oak Ventures is our lead investor. Benson Oak Ventures is based out of Israel. Workplay Ventures is Mark Pincus's VC, so the founder of Zynga. Loud Capital, Kind.Fund. Boston Harbor Angels actually invest mostly in health sciences, not affiliated with Harvard, and they're based in Boston, obviously. They don't do too many consumer investments. I believe they invested in a company that's part of one of the COVID vaccines. So we're very much out of their wheelhouse. They've been a great partner. Dating Group is not only an investment entity, but they also own and operate about 15 other dating platforms.
Oh, interesting.
Outside of the US. And then Gaingels, I like to call them the gay mafia, because if you look at Gaingels, they're literally invested in any company, any very super cool startup that has any gay leadership. And they're in most very large companies, very large startups today.
When pitching them, do you have to weave a really strong like gay focus into the pitch, or is it just, hey, this is what we're doing and there's gay people on our app or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, is there any twist to the pitch? Yeah.
Look, they're just trying, just like, there's VCs that only invest in female founders. If you have female executives, they're trying to increase the representation of minority groups. And that really helps to bring about a more successful product, or it increases the potential for success. So whether you're stacking a company with various minority founders, which we do, we need the diversity of opinion, because that's what's going to make a better dating app. So not just ethnically diverse, but also sexually or from their sexual orientation, that should also be diverse. Age should be diverse when we're creating a dating product. In the case of Gaingels, they just want to see gay leadership at the top levels of the companies. And for them, they know that if they're investing in those kinds of businesses, the likelihood of success is much higher. And that's true.
Got it. Any anecdotes or tips from pitching Mark Pincus? He's a really interesting character, or successful businessman. What was that like? Anything?
Yeah, I think you need to just know your stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So someone like Mark is a very product focused person. So, I don't go in there knowing what their reputation is. I don't go in there psyching myself out. We're all human beings. I think that's the common denominator, right? I'm on a S'more Live with these massive celebrities that may give the average person an anxiety attack, because you see them on TV and they feel like holier than thou, but they're just people.
Yeah.
Mark is a regular person. Mark happens to be an amazing founder, raised a great amount of money, and he now wants to invest in these thriving businesses. So I guess understanding the ethos of the person, their background a little bit, and really what you're looking for from that investor. For us, we wanted a really critical eye on product. Because Zynga, when it launched, was such a vastly different type of mobile app, right? They implemented all these social hooks into a mobile game, which no one had done in the past, and then monetizing that and showing the growth from there. And we really believe that we are sort of the Zynga of the dating world, where we're implementing a totally new way to meet someone that's not about how they look. And it's a dating app, and we're saying it doesn't matter how you look, which is a very different approach from conventional wisdom and the norm.
Yeah, interesting. Good. A couple more questions. I'll let you get back to building this. Amy, you've got this pretty impressive group of investors. How are you tapping them? Are you, like the example, getting some of Mark's knowledge from building Zynga and these viral hooks probably into any other ways you're systematically tapping or leveraging this group of investors you've got?
Yeah, so one of our investors in this round was the founder of a company called Scout. Scout, if you remember back in the day, they were a very large social network, and they raised a ton of money, and they were bought by the Meat Group, where I used to work. And so with Christian, who's the investor from Scout, he was the founder of the company. He's really helping us understand, the challenges that he faced scaling his company internationally. Mm-hmm. And so, one of the things that he talked to us about was, look, we have all the data. We know when something's broken in the app, but sometimes the data isn't enough. You really need to combine the data with the feedback in real time. And one of the stories that he told us was, he launched the product in Poland, and the product was translated, and it was supposed to work like it worked in every other country. It was very sticky and what have you. And all of a sudden, day 2 retention dropped. Like, no one used it after the first day of installing. And every other country, it slowly goes down, but there's not a huge drop. The product worked fine. The data showed that everything was fine. Something was off, and they couldn't figure out what. Well, when they translated the terminology for sexual orientation, it ended up that they were matching all the straight men with men. So all the men were matched with men, and all the women matched with women. And so obviously, if you're a straight man and you're only seeing men, do you think you downloaded a gay app? And if you're a woman that's only seeing women and you think you're seeing men, it's all screwed up. So of course you're never going to come back. So they weren't able to see that from the data, but when you combine all the feedback and translate all the feedback in real time, you can see all that. So it's really just interesting insights and sort of these tales from the trenches of operating these businesses that might have taken forever to understand just looking at the data. Why isn't someone coming back? Everything works fine. There's no crashes. There's not return. Why?
Oh, that's funny. That's a good story. I like it. Cool. You know, one or two last questions. What's your broader sort of fundraising vision? I mean, do you think you're going to have to raise multiple rounds, or with these dating apps, can you get enough, what's the business model, by the way? Is it a subscription thing? So two-part question. What's the business model? And then are you going to need to raise lots and lots of money? Are you think about that? Or is this something that once it goes kind of semi-viral, it really is a self-funding type of business? Yeah.
Yes. So to answer your first question, our funding comes from our revenue model is basically 4 sources of revenue. So one is subscriptions, which is recurring revenue. The second one is in-app purchases, so micro transactions. The third is advertising, which either could be ads if you implement an ad network, which we don't have at the moment, or branded campaigns, which we do have. So brands reach out to us directly and say, hey, we want to spend, $50,000 and do an ad campaign with you. We're flexible, right? Because we're a small company. So I will take that $50,000 and get you the best freaking campaign you've ever seen. And those are the kinds of things that we're doing. And then fourthly is affiliate revenue. So think about companies like OpenTable, right? Once you connect with someone and you want to go on a date, can we bring these people to another solution so that they can actually go on a date? That would be another revenue source for us.
So that's great. Will you even need to raise much more money? Because I can see each of those being pretty potentially lucrative.
Yeah, so in terms of raising money, look, I tend to be a relatively conservative business person. So I look at every dollar we spend, every penny we spend, even though we've raised a lot of money, it takes a lot of money to build these from the ground. And a part of that is because nobody knows the brand. So no one's going to install your app unless they know what you do and why what you do is different and better than something else. And so that just takes time. The product also needs to get up to snuff. And, we continue to work on the product. It's actually super cool. We launched a new version of it in January. But we have several more features that we are very excited to be launching this year around community. So honestly, the amount that we spend is really determined on how fast we want to grow. So if we pump more money into marketing, performance, and brand, we'll grow much faster. But we also want to make sure that the product is in the right position to be able to do that. So I think we probably will end up raising another round of funding in end of this year, early next year, and then we'll go supercharged growth at that point.
Cool. Very last question. If any other tips for startup entrepreneurs like yourselves raising money that we haven't covered, any advice you would give your younger self if you were doing this all over again? Go.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, when I started raising money, we raised $1 million in 3 months. So I don't think that's typical. I didn't know it was typical. Everyone told me no one's going to fund you. Nobody wants dating. All those things are true, still true today. It's really hard. And everyone would have advice. Everyone would give me advice. Other founders would give me advice, and it all felt so negative. One thing that will know about me, I am not a negative person. I'm a very optimistic, positive. When there's a will, there's a way. So I'm a very solution-oriented person. So I didn't really want to pay attention to, these are the 17 steps that you need to do, and then you'll be funded.
Yeah.
I just never believed in that. I kind of wanted to carve our own path and prove it out ourselves. The one piece of advice that my former employer got from someone when he started his company was never stop. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a million reasons why you should stop, why you should fold, why you should, move on to the next thing. Because it's really hard, and raising money doesn't make it easier. Every day that I come to work, there's so many things to accomplish. There's so many things that go wrong on a daily basis, and you sort of have to prioritize. You have to hire the right team, and then you just have to execute all the time. And so, you need to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself literally all the time, every single day, you can't expect other people to believe in you and cut checks into your company. So you always have to be determined. You always have to believe in yourself, because if you can't believe in you, can't expect other people to believe in you.
Yeah, good. All right, Adam, this is great. If people want to learn more, where should we point them?
Yes. So if you want to learn more about the app and how cool it is, guys, go to smoredate.com. But if you want to be entertained with all of our celebrity interviews, go to Instagram and go to smoredate. That's our handle. And there's over 70 shows that you can watch, 35 hours of celebrity content about dating, crazy dating stories, hilarious games, and useful dating tips. And shortly, we'll also be implementing all of those celebrity interviews inside of the app. So we'll become much more of a hub for content. And in addition to that, stay tuned, because we just inked a deal with producers from TLC and Gordon Ramsay's production studio company, and we'll be producing anti-superficial dating content for television. So when we think about building a brand, we're much more than an app. We're a brand that stands for anti-superficial relationships. And you'll start to see that manifest in different verticals.
Cool. Wow. Sounds fun. Almost makes me wish I was back on the market, but
well, in a second, our app is for all kinds of relationships, including friendships. So
that's interesting.
Find a cool friend and tell us how that goes.
That's interesting. That's cool. All right. Thank you very much. This has been super fun and great. Good luck, and we'll catch you after that next round and see how things have changed then. And appreciate it. Over and out.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.